Hello, bookworms! Welcome back to the Bonafide Bookworm. And if you're here to read along with me and improve your English, or just to listen to me read. So, I don't have a book review today. We're going to jump right into our book. We're reading Saving Sadie by Joal, Derse, Dauer with Elizabeth Ridley. And when we left off, Joel had taken Sadie to her vet, and that vet wasn't able to do anything, although he didn't say to euthanize her. He, kind of said, get her a wagon, because she's not going to be able to walk again. So Joel wasn't happy about hearing that, so she is driving Sadie to Chicago to see her daughter, to see if her daughter has any other suggestions, because her daughter is also a vet. So that's where we're picking up at. We're on page 22, about halfway down. My head was spinning during the hour-and-a-half drive from Fox Lake to Chicago's north side. I wasn't ready to accept Dr. Radowski's grim prognosis and still hoped against hope that something could be done to help Sadie walk again. Although I may have been rattled, Sadie seemed calm, mostly withdrawn into herself, but occasionally stirring and sitting up, shoulders squared, and watching intently out the window as traffic on I-94 thickened and Chicago's dizzying skyscrapers loomed into view. I was convinced that the real Sadie was in there somewhere, a loving, thoughtful soul just waiting for release. All right, Sadie, baby, I said, glancing over my shoulder as we sped down the expressway toward the Windy City. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's keep our fingers and paws crossed for better news. When we reached the veterinary hospital in Chicago, I quickly went in and let them know we were there. They were already waiting for us, so I went back out to the SUV and scooped Sadie up in my arms once more. She felt limp and listless, her body drained of life and hope. But suddenly she tipped her head back and rubbed my chest, then gently nuzzled my shoulder and collarbone. Buoyed by this signal, I carried Sadie into the exam room where Jamie Lynn was waiting with a colleague, a fellow female vet, who was present for the consultation. What pride and confidence I felt, placing Sadie in the capable hands of my smart, focused, gorgeous daughter, a slim brunette-like blonde in her early 30s, businesslike brunette, businesslike blonde in her early 30s with a 1,000-watt smile. All right, let's see what we've got here, she said, as she began Sadie's physical exam. When she reached the hindquarters, her forehead furrowed with concern. What is it? I asked. Sadie has no rectal tone whatsoever, she said, sadly. Most likely the result of the gunshot wound to her spine. Jamie Lynn concurred with Dr. Radowski's assessment that Sadie would likely be crippled and incontinent forever. This was no worse than Dr. Radowski's prognosis had been, and yet it was still difficult to hear those words again. What do you think I should do? I asked carefully. I steeled myself for Jamie Lynn's answer as she conferred with her colleague, but nothing could have prepared me for her reply. Realistically, we believe euthanasia is the best option, she said, followed immediately by, if you'd like, we can do it now while you're here. I was too shocked to respond. Sadie is not my dog, I thought. I have no right to end her life. Sensing my distress, Jamie Lynn took my arm and led me to the window, away from Sadie, stretched out helplessly on the floor, her lifeless back legs curled in, crab-like, toward her body. Consider the big picture, Mom, Jamie Lynn said softly as together we gazed out across the crowded parking lot. This dog can't walk. She's urinary and fecally incontinent, and there's nothing we can do to help her. Wouldn't the kindest thing be just to end her suffering now? What could I say? My heart ached. Sadie seemed too beautiful, too wise and gentle a soul to simply condemn her to death. Wasn't there something or someone that might help? Jamie Lynn and her colleague left the room to give me some time to think. I returned to Sadie's side and gently wrapped my arms around her skinny, quivering shoulders, holding her close. I'm so sorry, I whispered into her soft, velvety ear, but I still believe you're a fighter. You just need a chance. I held her a little longer, petting her softly and stroking her head, until Jamie Lynn came back and asked if I was ready to proceed with the euthanasia. No, I told her, not even realizing I had made a decision until the words left my mouth. I'm taking Sadie home. I understand what you're saying and I will consider it, but I need more time. Let me call you tomorrow. I wasn't ready to let Sadie go. I was still holding out hope that there was some way to make her better and get her walking again. As I scooped Sadie up once more and carried her back to my SUV, her weight suddenly seemed to double in my arms, and I refused to think about what it might be like to care for a dog with this level of special needs long term. I had only been Sadie's foster mom for a few hours, and I was already exhausted. What would this be like 24/7? No, Joel, don't go there, I warned myself. It's still possible that Sadie can be fixed. All she needs is someone to believe in her. It was an 1-45-minute drive back home to Muskego through heavy evening traffic, a drive made longer by the concern and fatigue weighing on my shoulders. Sadie must have been exhausted too, and yet she seemed to rally, raising herself on her front legs to press her nose against the window, drawing strength and energy from the life passing by outside, so close and yet tantalizingly out of reach. Well, Sadie, this is it. Welcome to my humble abode, I announced when we finally arrived at my adorable old country farmhouse that had been remodeled into a chic 2-level home nestled in a wood full of towering oak, pine, and maple trees, and with a beautiful screened-in wooden gazebo anchoring my side yard. I felt guilty, wondering if Sadie's heart beat a little faster, imagining this was her forever home. How could I explain to her that that could never be? I left Sadie in the SUV as I went inside and was immediately overrun by my 3 fur babies. Sparky, my huge black Newfie Border Collie mix, a big boxy lumbering old gal, anxious to bowl me over and smother me with slobbery kisses, along with my 2 cats, the arch and elegant Kit Kat, a model slim blue-eyed stark white diva, and Miss Kitty, my mysterious tortoise-shell girl with vivid green eyes. The 3 let me know in no uncertain terms that they had missed me, and that they were hungry. Okay, I told them, dinner's on the way. I wondered how they would respond to Sadie. Would they be upset or threatened by her disabilities, by her differentness? Or would they welcome her into the fold? There was no point in finding out, I decided, since Sadie would not be with us for long. Instead, I fed the 3 of them, then grabbed some more food, a water dish, and a blanket, and went back out to Sadie. I arranged Sadie's things on the ground and then lifted her out of the SUV and laid her on the cool, damp grass. I sat down beside her and stroked her head, contemplating Jamie Lynn's advice. There was no easy way to make this decision. And was it even my decision to make? Sadie seemed to relax as I stroked her, and I began to appreciate what a magnificent creature she must have been before being shot and left for dead. The fur on her back had been shaved down to the skin, allowing me to take a closer look at her injuries. I couldn't really see the bullet and shrapnel entry wounds, but there were dots where the skin had closed over. The cyst near her tail was large and could be felt beneath the skin. As I carefully stroked her forehead, I could feel the bullet lodged within the tissue. Amazingly, even with all these injuries, Sadie didn't seem to be in any pain. Spring in Wisconsin, even late April, can be cold and blustery, and snow is surprisingly common. As the sun teetered toward the horizon, a chill breeze unfurled from the woods behind us, and our breaths became visible. Sadie and I huddled closer for warmth, the weight of her head resting in my lap. She and I had been sitting in the grass for over an hour. Clearly, I needed to make a decision, but for now, my only decision was to put some food, water, and blankets in the garage and move Sadie there for the night. I didn't want to bring her inside the house because of her incontinence and because I didn't want to upset or confuse Sparky, Miss Kitty, or Kit Kat. And if I were completely honest, because I didn't want Sadie to think this was home. Her home, our home, her forever home. Ushering her into my home would mean ushering her into my heart. And I was still trying to convince myself that I could somehow prevent that from happening. Even if I wasn't ready to let Sadie into my home, I also couldn't fathom leaving her outside in the elements either. I wanted her to feel loved, even if, especially if, this was to be her final night on earth. At least she would fly to the angels having experienced human love firsthand. So I settled Sadie in the detached garage, made sure she was comfortable, then went back inside and made a quick phone call to the shelter in Kenosha, letting them know that I was keeping Sadie for the night. They seemed surprised but gave their consent. After the call, I slid out of my stinking, sweaty, soiled clothes, grabbed a quick shower, and fixed myself dinner. I tried to focus on my everyday tasks, cooking a meal, doing laundry, answering emails, handling follow-up calls with clients, and yet it was hard to concentrate because my mind kept returning to Sadie. Because the garage was not attached to the house, I worried that I wouldn't hear her bark or know if she became distressed. Several times I went out to check on her, and each time I opened the door, her head rose and swiveled toward me, and her eyes lit up with a mixture of fear, surprise, and hope. She seemed comfortable enough, although on my second visit I noticed that she had soiled herself again. So I cleaned her up, carried her outside, and placed her in the grass, hoping she might complete her business, but alas, nothing happened. I felt sad and embarrassed for both of us that I couldn't help her with this most basic of tasks. After I got her settled back in the garage with clean bedding, I went inside. I was so exhausted that I put on my pajamas and collapsed into bed with Sparky, Miss Kitty, and Kit Kat curling up beside me, battling each other for the curved pocket of warmth closest to Mom. I thought I'd fall asleep immediately, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sadie's face as I'd seen her in the shelter. Head down, chin quivering, those big brown eyes reaching out to me, begging me to help. She's not even my dog, I chided myself. Why can't I get her out of my mind? Of course, protecting and caring for animals was nothing new for me. I'd grown up in Wisconsin with distant, difficult parents who didn't always make life pleasant for me, my older sister Marnette, my younger sister Leanne, and my younger brother John. In hindsight, I think I used the love I found with animals as a substitute for what I didn't always get from the humans in my life. In any event, our home was always bursting with dogs, cats, mice, canaries, turtles, ducks, and other assorted critters. When I was 6, our first newly hatched duckling imprinted on me and followed me everywhere, convinced I was its mom. By 7, I had trained Rusty, our Irish setter, to sit and balance a cookie on his nose until I gave him the signal to flip it into the air and devour it. Even at that young age, I knew that animals would always play a major role in my life. But now here I was, enjoying middle age with my two daughters grown, both of them happy and successful with terrific families and careers. I loved keeping my trim 5'7" dancer's body in excellent shape and indulging my passion for classic cars and crafts and travel and skiing. Caring full-time for a disabled special needs dog was definitely not an item on my lifetime bucket list. And yet, every time I closed my eyes, I saw only Sadie's sweet and patient face looking up at me and begging for help. After tossing and turning for several hours, at 1 a.m. I finally gave up, threw back the covers, and slid my legs over the side of my 4-poster canopy bed. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em, I said to Sparky, Kit Kat, and Miss Kitty, who looked confused as they stirred and blinked sleepily beside me, then promptly went back to bed. I put on my slippers, an extra layer of clothing, and my winter coat, then grabbed an extra blanket and a sleeping bag and tiptoed out to the garage. Sadie's head shot up as I entered. "It's only me, girl," I soothed her. "I thought you might like some company." She replied with a sharp little bark and a tiny yet determined wag of her tail. I must admit I felt a little foolish arranging a sleeping bag and blankets and lying down to sleep on my garage floor. But Sadie needed me, and that was what mattered. As I lay beside her and we snuggled closer for warmth, I spoke to her in gentle tones. I don't have a clue what I'm going to do with you, I admitted. I need you to guide me. If you want my help, please tell me. And if you don't, that's okay too. Just give me a sign. She responded with a low little whine that struggled to rise from the depths of her chest. Still, that was enough for me. All right, I whispered. Let's see what morning brings. After that, the night grew quiet, marked only by the sound of our breathing, along with the warm, mossy odor of potting soil and the cold ache of concrete rising from the floor beneath us to seize our joints and stiffen our bones. My eyes searched the strange, almost menacing shadows, waiting for their stark, garish forms to resolve into the more mundane shapes of a rake, a lawnmower, a deck chair, a hose. Sadie, I want to see you run again, I whispered forcefully when I knew she was asleep. You deserve the chance to race through the grass once more and feel the breeze move through your fur. And we're going to stop there because there's a good little break there. We're on page 31. So we'll pick back up next week. And until then, I hope wherever you're at is great. I hope you have a great day, week, month, year, and I hope you come back. See you next time. Bye.